So what's your favorite animal so far? You guys started with what? The butterflies, right? What was your favorite? Polar bears. They're just the biggest. And you haven't even heard about them yet, have you? All right, so these penguins behind me are Humboldt penguins, and this is where they live. You see this orange stripe here? They live on the Pacific coast of South America. Okay? Inside, they have Gentoo penguins, king penguins, and rockhoppers, which is why today I decided to tell you about the emperor penguin, because they don't have it. But they look the same, they're just bigger. If you look at the picture in your book, at the bottom there's a diagram, and there's a Humboldt penguin, and right next to him is an emperor. It shows you how much bigger the emperor penguin is. And the emperor penguin actually lives here in Antarctica. Okay, at the bottom of the world. So remember we said the Humboldt penguins live here? These guys live here down in Antarctica. The average temperature in Antarctica is between, not average, the year-round temperature is between -2 and -30 degrees. So it is freezing cold down here, and Antarctica is the windiest continent on the face of the earth. So the wind chill makes it seem even colder than it actually is, and yet we have penguins, the emperor penguin, who lives down there and has to withstand all that cold. So I thought I'd tell you about the life cycle of a emperor penguin, because it's amazing. The mama penguin will lay an egg. If that egg stays on the ice for a minute or more, just about a minute, the chick inside will die from the freezing cold. So the mother lays the egg and then rolls the egg up on the father's feet. And the father has to keep that egg on top of his feet for 2 months while that egg incubates. And he actually has a fold of skin right here, and he'll fold that over the egg so the egg is completely covered, and it will incubate at 95 degrees, even though the temperatures down there are below zero. So while he's taking care of incubating this egg, the mama penguin goes out to sea to get food, not only for herself, but for the chick after the chick is hatched. The father is left back at the ranch trying to stay warm, and here's how they stay warm. All the male penguins huddle up together like this, and they call it a penguin huddle. And you say, well, that's not quite fair, is it? The guys in the middle are toasty warm, and the guys on the outside, except that, you know what they do? And there's really good videos on YouTube about this. They rotate. They start on the outside, they'll go to the middle. Once they get to the middle, they take their turn back on the outside again, and they have to do this for 2 months. Now, one thing I thought about, they have to keep that egg off the ice on their feet. Don't their feet get cold? I mean, their feet is on the ice for 2 months. They actually can control the flow of blood to their feet, and there's no heat loss through their skin. So they're able to actually keep their feet warm enough to stand on that ice the whole time. So here they are, they're all mobbed together like this. The mom's out to sea, she's getting food, and sometimes she's as far away as 200 miles. And scientists wanted to find out, try to figure out how they found their way back, because there's not really any landmarks. You know, it's all ice and snow. And so they took a penguin and they put her in the middle of nowhere, and they watched her. And she started going immediately back to the rookery, which rookery is, like you call it, a flock of birds. A group of penguins is called a rookery. She was immediately in the correct direction to get back there. And then the sun went behind the clouds, and she got confused. And then when the sun came out again, she went right back online to get back to where she needed to go. So they know that it has something to do with the sun, but at this point they don't have any idea what. But anyway, so now she makes it back, and she always gets back either right before the chick hatches, sometimes on the very day that the chick hatches. But this is what she finds. She's got to find her mate with her egg. So how do they do that? You know they can actually recognize each other's voice, just like you can recognize your mom's voice or your dad's voice. They can recognize each other's voice, and they find each other. And so the mom feeds the chick. I'm gonna wait a second till the train goes by. So the mom feeds the chick, and the dad goes out to sea because he hasn't eaten in 2 months, and he's lost half of his body fat. And here's how the mom feeds the chick. Are you ready for this? She stored food in her stomach, and she vomits it up, and that's what she feeds to her chick. So penguin chicks eat mama vomit. Aren't you glad we don't do that? So she's feeding the chick, he's out getting filled up again, they take turns going out to sea, and then she lays another egg, and the whole thing starts all over again. Is that pretty amazing? How do you figure they knew how to do that? You figure at one point, like a mama penguin laid an egg, and she went to the daddy penguin and said, hey, our baby died, what should we do? And he said, you know what, maybe roll it up on my feet, let's try that. And, you know, for some reason I got this skin, I can tell. You think that's how that happened? No, I think we have an awesome creator God, don't we? And that was instinct for them to do that. The creator God took care of that. So in your books, and this would refer to all penguins, I wanted to show you how uniquely penguins are designed to swim. They're designed for life in the water. First of all, their feathers are waterproof and very thick. Here is a close-up of their feathers. And you see that little red square on the bottom there? That is 1 square inch. And a penguin has 200 feathers per square inch. And they actually are overlapped. They're the only birds where their feathers overlap. And because it's so dense and it's waterproof, they're able to trap air underneath their feathers. So that when they're in that icy cold water in the Antarctic, their feathers are waterproof and there's a layer of air in between there. That icy cold water never gets through to their skin to make them cold. It's amazing. So anyway, that's your first fill-in is waterproof. The second one, their wings are fused into stiff paddles designed to maneuver. You can see them. When they swim, if you go inside later, they actually look like they're flying when they swim. And water is 900 times more dense than the air. Because of that, their wing muscles, and this is your third fill-in, they have the strongest wing muscles of any bird. In fact, their wing muscles are so strong they could actually break a human leg with their wings. The last one is their torpedo shape helps them save energy and move faster when they're in the water. I'm going to show you one more thing real quick, because these guys, the way this exhibit is designed, to get out of the water, they can just walk up on those rocks and get out. How do you think they get out of the water down there in the Antarctic? They don't have any hands where they can reach up on the ice and pull themselves out. How do they get out of the water? They launch themselves, and I would recommend you go to YouTube and put in penguin launch, because it's amazing the way they do this. What they'll do is they'll come to the surface of the water. They'll come to the surface of the water and you'll see them like ruffling their feathers. And what they're doing is collecting air under their feathers. They then dive, and then they swim to the surface as fast as they can, but because remember I said that water is 900 times more dense than air, that air that they collected under their feathers is released, and it surrounds them with air bubbles, which helps them to swim 2 to 3 times faster than they could just in the water because they're surrounded with air bubbles rather than having water right against their feathers. So they swim 2 to 3 times faster. They get to the surface and they launch out of the water like a flying fish. They launch out of the water and land on the land. How you figure they knew how to do that, young man? I would figure you're right about that. Because I don't think that penguin, that first, when God created the bird kind and he created penguins, I don't think they got in the water and said, okay, now that we're in here, how the heck do we get out? I don't think that's the way that happened. The Bible says that God created everything through his son, Jesus Christ. It tells us that in John 1, and Colossians 1, and Hebrews 1. And when Jesus created the penguin, he gave him the ability and the instinct to do these things, right? Anybody got any questions? Anybody got any answers? I had a lady ask me earlier, what about the penguin's eye in that freezing cold water? I said, I didn't research that, but I got to go home and look it up now. So just amazing. Yes? You know what? You're probably right, because I know like a camel has a transparent eyelid. They have 3 eyelids and one is transparent. And if there's a sandstorm, they close their transparent eyelid, they can see right through it and no sand gets in their eye. That's a pretty smart creator